Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. I hope everybody's having a great day, and thanks for tuning back in. Are machine guns back on the menu? Well, according to Judge John Brooms, the answer might be yes. All right. So this is a pretty interesting story, and I know this happened last week, and it's got a lot of people up in arms, and people have been talking about it. Even some of my law enforcement friends have been calling me and asking, hey, can we have machine guns now? Is that what this means? Let's go over it a little bit. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our friends at Sonoran Desert Institute for supporting our videos. If you're looking for a career in gunsmithing, they are your go-to people. Really great group of folks, great curriculum, great instructors, great distance learning programs. If you're wanting to get into gunsmithing, reloading, they got great drone programs, good stuff on the business side to teach you how to run a gun business. Check them out, SDI, and tell them that Eric sent you. So this came out of Kansas. A U.S. District Court judge in Kansas on Wednesday dismissed machine gun possession charges against a defendant, finding the prosecutors hadn't proven the weapons can be banned under the Second Amendment. Okay, well that's pretty interesting. Now this is a Trump-appointed judge, okay? This fellow, Tamari Morgan, was indicted by a federal grand jury around April 2023. And this went all the way up to this, I believe, the 4th District Court, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, what they're saying is that it cannot pass constitutional scrutiny, right? That banning machine guns is against the Second Amendment. It goes against the Second Amendment. So this is a really interesting type of ruling, because what this does is this puts the ball in our court. This potentially changes things moving forward in a very big way, okay? This could go to the Supreme Court. That's right, y'all. The NFA could literally be challenged in the Supreme Court as a result of this type of situation, right? We have seen the Republicans shift gears on a lot of things, and guns have been a very interesting viewpoint that, you know, in the political stratum in the last, let's just say, 4 to 6, maybe 10 years, you know, go back about a decade, right? There hasn't really been much appetite in Congress to move on any sort of gun control, whether it's negative gun control, positive gun control, doesn't matter. For or against, the appetite for it has been relatively lukewarm, okay? And I think the way they approach it is, well, they're going to throw a bunch of laws on the books and see what sticks, and we'll just let the Supreme Court sort it out. They know how long this stuff takes to go through the courts, so in their mind they figure, well, that sort of washes my hands of it. I'll pass whatever gun control or pro-gun stuff, and then we'll let the courts sort it out, and we'll see where it goes. Well, in recent years, we've seen that the appetite in the Supreme Court to hear more Second Amendment cases, it's certainly there, right? Look at all these things we got, like Bruin, and, you know, there's been some really good movement, right? And recently, we had the Chevron doctrine thrown out in the Supreme Court. That's a 40-year-old rulemaking process that was certainly abused. I think the original implication or intention of Chevron doctrine was probably meant well, right? It was never meant to be taken advantage of in the way that it was, but from a statutory standpoint, of course, lawmakers, well, not lawmakers, actually the opposite of lawmakers, bureaucrats begin to sort of meddle these words in a way that allows them to say, well, we'll just tell you know, a random agency, a law enforcement agency, to act on our will on this particular, let's just say, arbitrary or confusing area of a certain part of a law, right? We're going to just tell them to work it our way when the circumstances of the way the law is written might be a little bit confusing or ambiguous, okay? That's the overall idea. And it was mainly used in like an EPA case that I'm not going to get into, but more famously for you guys watching this channel and gals, is that, now look, Trump banned bump stocks, okay? He used the power of the pen and issued an executive order and told the ATF to move on bump stocks. Well, what did? They moved on bump stocks. Here we are a couple of years later, Michael Cargill comes out, sues the ever-loving crap out of him, you know, deals with the bump stock situation, okay? But now, on the heels of the Chevron deference process or Chevron doctrine process being thrown out in the Supreme Court, what that does essentially is now the very rule-making body in which all of this crap has happened, honestly, we could say over the last 30, 40, maybe even 50 years, right? At least 40 years, right? Could easily go back to saying, hey, you, Mr. President, whoever, you cannot just pick up a phone and sign your name on an executive order and tell someone to go after this particular thing. You can't ban assault weapons. You can't ban bump stocks. You can't ban braces. You can't ban suppressors or whatever you want to try to do, right? The frame and receiver rule, the doing business rule, like, the executive order where they want to change, what is considered to be in the business of doing firearms as an individual. All these things were passed using, pushed down the line using the Chevron doctrine rulemaking process, okay? So these things are kind of intertwined because now this is a court who is saying, hey, you can't, you tried to prosecute this guy for owning a machine gun that's, let's just say, not on the books. This is not a machine gun on the registry. This is a guy who, I don't know, maybe made a machine gun or was in possession of a machine gun. But for whatever we're saying here, remember how in the past, all these years I've been making these videos, we always said that there would be a Rosa Parks moment for the Second Amendment. Hello, y'all. This could be a Rosa Parks moment because, right, you're talking to a person who tried to be prosecuted for being in possession of an illegal machine gun, a legal machine gun. So here we have a court who said, you can't prosecute this guy for having that machine gun because the Second Amendment is what it is and it's worded the way it is. So that puts forth a very distinctive precedence moving forward. This is going to be really interesting to see how the NFA gets picked apart, because what the Supreme Court essentially is saying when they did away with this Chevron doctrine is that, hey, if Congress wants a law, they have to pass it. The president has to sign it. That's how this goes. It goes through a whole litany of different rulemaking processes in order to come up with a law, which I'm not even going to get into all the crazy juicy details, but you guys know Civics 101. Goes through the House, goes through the Senate, goes to the president's desk, it gets signed, it becomes law, right? That's how it works. It's called checks and balances. That's why we have this system set up the way it is, so that no one group of people can have too much power over the other. It forms a system of checks and balances so that everyone in Congress that wants to pass a law must cooperate and agree unanimously, at least mostly unanimously as a whole, to pass that law. And that law has to be a positive outcrop or outgrowth, if you will, of the people's will. That's what it means to have representatives, people representing you in government, right? Is for your representative to go, oh, well, my buddy Eric down in Griffin, Georgia decided to, come talk to me, and he told me how much he loves the Second Amendment, and we would really love to advance this pro-gun carry bill that's going through the House, right? That's how it works. You talk to your representatives, and then they go and say, yeah, we're going to support this bill because our constituents want it. And then it goes through and it goes through. What the presidents have tried to do in the past is use the power of the pen to completely bypass Congress and to essentially upset the checks and balances and the balance of power in our country to go, we don't care what Joe Blow in Georgia says. We don't care what Joe Blow in California says. I'm the president, and I want you, alphabet agency, to do this. And then that carries the weight of law and prosecution and the consequence of being put away and or shot. So that is a serious thing. So it's good that that this Chevron doctrine rulemaking process, rulemaking body, or let's just say this little loophole, whatever you want to call it, it's good that it went the way of the dodo, and the Supreme Court saw our way on that. So does that mean, could machine guns now be on the docket for a potential Supreme Court case? Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something to happen in our lifetime for the Supreme Court and of all people, Justice Thomas, to go, that's right, bitches. You can't ban machine guns, and here's why, and then go through and completely dismantle the NFA. Wouldn't that be something? So what this particular judge, Judge John Brooms, what he's saying is that you don't have the right to prosecute this person for owning a machine gun because he has a right to own a machine gun. This is one of the first times where a judge has said that someone has a right to own a machine gun even though that machine gun is not registered. So, we'll see where this goes, y'all. It's anybody's ball game, but I wanted to put this video out. I know some people have been asking me about it. It's so weird that I'll get calls from people, hey, does that mean we can have machine guns now? Can I just drill the third pin on my AR? Well, I guess you could. You could drill the bitch out and put an auto sear in it and get arrested, and maybe the judge in your area will see the same way that John Brooms did. Who knows? That's the risk, I guess. It's up to the individual if they want to take that risk or not. But according to this judge, he doesn't think that you should be in any sort of trouble for having a machine gun. After all, look at all the thugs in Chicago, these little kids running around with Glocks with auto sears in them. And they're ripping each other to shreds every weekend, to the tune of dozens of people a week in some cases. So you mean to tell me that, is that to say machine guns are not in common use? I'd say they're pretty common. I'd say there's people out there gunning themselves down with them all the time. Well, why keep the honest, law-abiding citizens from owning them? We've seen the Republicans move in very different directions on quite a few subjects in the last few years, right? We saw, interestingly enough, where Trump came out in support of legalizing marijuana. Now, I know everybody has their various opinions on that, but however, what that shows, and of course his VP pick, Vance, he wants to dismantle the ATF. He wants to shred it to send it to the winds. So you've got this militant VP who wants to see the administrative state essentially cast into the wind. And now you've got a president who is open to legalizing marijuana. Is that to say that this new face of the right moving forward, the face of the Republican Party moving forward, have they had a change of heart? Have they kind of let go of clutching their pearls on a lot of these issues? And that they're going to actually kind of go, hey, we're going to open up to some ideas that maybe 10 or 15 years ago would have been considered a leftist position, right? What has the left been calling for decades? Marijuana legalization. What is Trump saying? Hey, I'm open to legalizing marijuana. But hey, we legalize your marijuana, we're going to get our machine guns legalized. Because if y'all are out there getting high and doing all kind of stupid crap, we're going to protect ourselves from you if you act violent or do something dumb. It's fair is fair, right? You do what you want, but we're going to have the tools to protect ourselves as well. Now, I'm not a voodoo priest or something, but if I had a crystal ball, and if I was a gypsy and could look in a crystal ball and tell the future, I'm not a betting man, but I would say that our future holds some machine guns. I think we're going to see, and it's going to take some time to go through the courts, but I think we're going to see machine guns get removed from the NFA. We may even see the entire NFA dismantled, whether it'll be under common use argument or constitutional grounds, Second Amendment grounds, Chevron doctrine abuse grounds. I'm not a legal scholar. I'm not a lawyer. However, I think there's a lot of different ways we can spin this. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat, y'all. It's anybody's ball game. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is just Eric's thoughts here for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely follow me on Twitter, Iraq Veteran 8888 over there. I'm very active on Twitter. So thank you guys very much for watching today's video. Keep your head up. I think that legal machine guns are on the way, and I think things are going to go our way. So have a good one. Many more on the way. We'll see you soon.